And so we'll talk a little bit about the roles of the folks who are involved today. Terry, what's the role of the legal counsel when it comes to dealing with this?
I think the primary role of your company's lawyer is going to be to help you avoid getting into trouble. This statute, it's the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, which I'm referring to as PPACA. It's got to have a better name than that. PPACA has incorporated the provisions of the ERISA statute that provide for a private cause of action, and they've also incorporated a lot of the penalties and other relief that are present in the ERISA statute. And those include things such as attorney's fees. If one of your employees sues you under PPACA and they prevail, they can recover attorney's fees. There is also an ERISA provision that says if an employer or an insurance issuer fails to provide some of the required notices or information, that there can be a penalty of $100 per day per violation. So if you have 1,000 employees and you fail to send out the right notice, it's $100 per day times that 1,000 employees times ever how many days you go before you realize it. So there's a lot of exposure here for employers, and hopefully your counsel will help you to avoid that. I noticed in the Wichita Business Journal poll recently, when the question was, how many of you feel that you understand how this statute's going to affect your business? Over 70% said, no, I don't really understand that. And I think that's probably an accurate assessment, given that the statute is so long, so complicated. As we'll talk about later, it's oftentimes internally inconsistent in its provisions, and it's a very difficult statute to read and understand. As you know, from a legal standpoint, as is often true with federal statutes, there will be follow-on regulations that will help define what the obligations are under the statute. About every other section in this statute says, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services or the Secretary of Labor will be charged with drafting regulations that will tell employers and insurance companies what they're supposed to do. Obviously, those regulations have not been drafted yet. Those of you who follow this know that the usual way that happens is that draft regulations are published in the Federal Register. They will solicit comments from people as to whether they like or would request changes in the regulations. People send in their comments and then they ignore them and issue their final regulations later on. And so that'll be something that all of us will need to be watching when those regulations become available. Also from a legal standpoint, as probably most of you know, there are already a number of lawsuits pending that are challenging the act. If you're interested in watching those, probably the one to keep your eye on is the one in Virginia. That area of the country has what's known as the rocket docket. That case will proceed through the federal district court in Virginia and up to the Court of Appeals with record speed. So that's probably going to be the one to make it first to the U.S. Supreme Court. But those are some of the things that your legal counsel will be able to assist you with as this project moves forward.